Well, among the complicating elements moving forward, Hamas has taken Israeli civilians and soldiers hostage in Gaza. So I wonder strategically how that then complicates military options for the Israelis.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to bring up. There are three major things on Netanyahu's plate. And the first is getting the hostages back in some fashion. It's complicated in a number of ways, not the least significant of which is some of the hostages have already been taken to Gaza. Getting rid of Hamas, forces that don't have hostages that are currently on Israeli soil, is going to be relatively easy. But getting hostages back is going to be extremely difficult, especially those who are inside Gaza. There are some Hamas forces with Israeli hostages on Israeli territory who are now surrounded. What are they going to do about those? That's a real tactical problem. How do you get them back when they're already inside Gaza? That's a tactical problem. The third thing that's on his plate is retribution. The Israeli populace is going to want something back for this. It's going to be extremely difficult for Netanyahu politically to do absolutely nothing to counterstrike and go actually inside Gaza. He can do what he can with air, and they're already putting airstrikes on known targets. But there's going to be a lot of impetus inside the Israeli government for Netanyahu to give the order to bring forces inside Gaza. And I've done it before, and it's not a very nice thing to do, very difficult thing to do. As we know, it's extremely densely populated. There'll be a lot of casualties, collateral damage, civilian casualties, and so on. And they're going to have to leave eventually anyway. How they're going to get the hostages out of Gaza is a much more difficult problem than getting the hostages away from Hamas, who are still on Israeli soil, Alicia.
We've talked about one border as this conflict escalates, concern, of course, that it could spread, specifically attacks from militants on Israel's northern border. Talk about that scenario, the unique security risk Israel is now faced with.
Well, it's happened before, obviously, with the enemy coming over from Lebanon. All of these forces, Palestinian forces, are supported by Iran. And there's a cogent argument that says that one of the reasons it has happened, this attack has happened now, is because despite Iran's support, Hamas itself has been marginalized by discussions with Saudi Arabia, for example, to normalize relations, successful discussions already, agreements in the Gulf to normalize relations with Israel. And this has further isolated Hamas and has given them the motivation to conduct the attack. Now, if this continues for some time, we can expect that there might be attempts at incursions from southern Lebanon. There have already been attacks, missile attacks from time to time from there. And to open up a second front in this war, that's going to make it extremely difficult for the Netanyahu government to defend, especially in view of the lack of support Netanyahu has had recently because of the political machinations inside Israel, support from the Israeli military reserves. One expects that this is he's going to have the backing for a relatively short period of time, but unless there is some success at getting hostages back, which is we've already discussed is extremely difficult, there's going to be an erosion of support for making incursions elsewhere in Gaza, even for defending in the north, and for Netanyahu personally and his political aspirations to maintain control, Alicia.